Hello and welcome to Shauns Take, brought to you by the Keystone Sports Network. Here are your hosts, Jim and Shaun.
Hello and welcome to Shauns Take. I am Jim Galante. He is Shaun Gold. Shaun, it's NFL Draft Week.
It is. I absolutely love the NFL draft, Jim. There's so much excitement that comes from it. You get to see these guys go pro. Maybe we see some draft day trades. There's some names on the trade block. As always, it's an exciting couple of days there.
I'm with you. I absolutely love it. And I'll tell you one of the things, I don't even know how many years now they've been doing this, where they're moving the draft around to different NFL cities. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible and a lot of fun. I think whoever thought of that idea deserves a raise.
They completely do. And it makes it, you see the fans so much more engaged. And even if you have a late first round pick, that pick all of a sudden becomes so meaningful to that fan base, and everybody's there cheering their hearts out for whoever their team chooses. So I was a big fan when they made that change. I think it was maybe 3-4 years ago now that they did the switch, and I think it has worked out tremendously for the NFL.
It really has, and this year it's going to be in Pittsburgh. I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm on the other side of the state, but I know a lot of people, from the Penn State area, Central PA. It's very much split between Philadelphia fans and Pittsburgh fans, so a lot of Steeler fans. A lot of these folks are very excited about it. Pittsburgh will get the 21st pick. And like you said, that's late in the first round, but it's all of a sudden going to be a big pick because it's the hometown team.
It definitely will be. And, I can already see it. The Steeler faithfuls, they'll have the terrible towels out. They'll have, all the costumes and everything. It makes for a great experience. Definitely on my bucket list to make it to an NFL draft one day.
Hey, it's got to hit LA soon, right?
Right. I'm expecting it to, and I will be there.
All right. Well, you would think because you have two teams out there, that's sort of like two shots at it, or maybe they could kill two birds with one stone and have it out there. It would be fun. It is a good time. I know seeing it, the one year was in Nashville, I think. And Nashville, I don't know if you've ever been there, just such a fun town that just add the draft to it, just perfect atmosphere. We'll see how Pittsburgh does. But I tell you what, Shaun, always the interest is that number one pick this year. Obviously, it's going to be Fernando Mendoza, and he's going to go to the Raiders. I guess it's supposed to be a weak quarterback draft this year. Mendoza, is he a worthwhile number one pick? I guess I'm going to put it that way.
It's a great question. Beginning of the season last year was back and forth on, is he truly number one overall pick good? And I don't, he's not Andrew Luck coming out. I'll say that. He's not Andrew Luck. He's not Joe Burrow in my eyes. But I do think that he is worthy and deserving to be a number one pick. And I think if you took him in, last year, I would have taken him number one over Cam Ward. Next year, I know we're going to have a lot of names. Maybe Arch Manning ends up having a great season and becomes that prospect. But I would argue Fernando Mendoza would be the number one pick in next year's draft as well, with a deeper quarterback class. So I do think that he has the football IQ and the ability to read defenses that will set him up for NFL success. And, I don't think he's maybe what we would call like a generational quarterback prospect, like when Caleb Williams was coming out, or, like I said, Andrew Luck and those guys. But I do think that he is a worthy number one pick. He was a Heisman Trophy. We saw what he did in college football playoffs against great competition. I think he's ready for the moment, and I think he deserves it.
I'm with you. I like him a lot. I think he showed come playoff time that playing quarterback is not just about having that big arm, accurate arm, those kind of things. It's a lot about decision making, and it's also about coming up big in the big moments. And he showed that. And I always bring up, as someone who was in the press box at Beaver Stadium with that late win, and everyone will show that replay of the reception in the end zone as the clutch play. But Indiana had to march the length of the field to set that play up. So there were multiple plays that he made when it meant the most. That's what really impressed me with him.
I agree. And also, I love the backing that he has. I think one of Curt Cignetti's, conversations with him when he was recruiting him was, I'm going to be the guy that helps you get to the next level. You want to play quarterback in the NFL, come play for me. I'll get you ready. He sure did. And I know if I've learned one thing the past couple of years, I trust Curt Cignetti with whatever he says. I'm backing him all day.
And he did. He has them ready. Well, I think you and I are both in agreement. We really like Mendoza, but I think it's the depth or lack of depth in this class for quarterbacks. Next up, I guess, Ty Simpson, right? Then who? So, first of all, Ty Simpson, where does he go? Where does he deserve to go? And it always feels like someone will reach for a quarterback.
I completely agree. Everything seems like somebody in the second half of the first round is either going to take him at their pick, like, maybe a Pittsburgh Steelers situation. We're sitting at 22 saying, we may have another year of Aaron Rodgers. Who's going to be next? Like a team like the Pittsburgh fits the build, or you may see somebody trade back into the first round. If he's there at, pick 25 through 32, you could, sacrifice a first year, a third round pick and a fourth round pick to move up or something like that, a little future draft capital to move into the first round. But you said, where does he deserve to go? And I wouldn't value him as a first round pick. And I was very big on him going into last season. I thought that he was going to be in contention for a number 1 overall pick. And we just did not see him live up to those expectations as the season went on. And he really did hurt his draft stock. But as you mentioned, quarterback, it's a premium position. If anybody sees him potentially being the guy, somebody will be taking him in the first round.
Who is it? Dan Orlovsky, who likes him a lot, I think. And that's all it takes is one general manager who says he's the guy. But what it does also, Shaun, for me, it brings up this whole idea of with the quarterbacks and how college quarterbacks getting compensated and the decisions these quarterbacks have to make. Do you come back or not? Where it used to be pretty much automatic. If you got a chance, you head to the NFL. You go to the draft. This year, or the last couple of years, not so much so. But it's interesting, Ty Simpson, he will, in the back half of the first round, his first year as an NFL player, he'll make probably around $3 million. Not probably, he will, because that is the rookie salary structure. If he chose to come back, he could have made over $6 million staying in college. So it's interesting that he decided to come out when a lot of NFL scouts said he could have used more experience. And then you have the other quarterbacks like Dante Moore choose to come back. Arch Manning, who you meant, Trinidad Chambliss, who's coming back for his 23rd year of college. And he fought for the right to come back. But these guys, they're going to make more money in college. So it has really changed the whole decision-making process for quarterbacks, hasn't it?
It completely has, because it used to be if your name was in any contention to be a first-round pick or maybe even a second-round pick, you were leaving after your junior year because, well, what if I get injured in my senior season and it really derails me? And then maybe I'm either a fifth-round pick or out of the NFL altogether due to severity of an injury. Now it's like, I'll take a year of injury risk for a couple extra $1 million if I'm not going to be the number 1 pick. And actually, I think Dante Moore is the perfect example. He was set to be the 1 or 2 pick until a playoff game where he did not look very good and everyone raised the red flag. So then he goes, okay, I'm falling either end of the first round or out of the first round altogether, making $3 million plus less dollars than what I can make if I return to Oregon for another season. So I think it's unless you're going to be a top 5 pick, it's almost in your best interest to go back to college, because if you have anything close to first round, not even first round, if you have anything close to NFL in your name, you're getting a couple $1 million from NIL, and that's likely more than what you would be making in the NFL, which is just crazy to think about.
Well, I think Dante Moore is an interesting case study here, he actually transferred to Oregon knowing he would sit for a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he did that. It feels like he's making long-range, smart decisions. He did that knowing he would sit for a year, but would be more prepared. He would take over the reins of a really good team, set himself up, and he did that perfectly. Then, as you mentioned, maybe falling a little bit in the draft, even if he's still in the first round, he said, you know what? I'm going to get paid whether I go to the NFL or stay in college this year. Why not stay in college and really firm up my decision for the following year and my draft status? So it's an interesting setup for him and for all the quarterbacks. Interesting then that Ty Simpson decided he was going to come out, though. But it leads to the question, okay, Fernando Mendoza, number one. Ty Simpson, he's the next quarterback to go. What about after that, Shaun?
I don't know. I mean, you see, Carson Beck's name with Miami, and he's obviously had a very successful college career, really showed out by taking Miami to the national championship game. But I think there's NFL holes in his game as well, which is why we're not talking about him in the first round. Garrett Nussmeier from LSU. I mean, I was really big on LSU, and largely because of Nussmeier going into last season, and he had a pretty disappointing season as well. So I don't know, will we even see, assuming Ty Simpson goes in the first round, I don't even know if we'll see a quarterback get taken in the second round, or if it's just teams are looking at it like there are other players who are better, and nobody feels desperate for any of these quarterbacks at this point. So you may see a huge quarterback slide to where guys who maybe should be a second-round pick aren't getting picked till the third or fourth round because there's no competition in the quarterback room, and nobody feels the need after Ty Simpson to go and reach on a quarterback, which is very rare in the NFL draft.
It is, and you know what, though? It seems like every year we say that, and somebody surprises us by taking another quarterback early, or at least earlier than we expected. We here in Pennsylvania, following Penn State, have to ask you what your thoughts are on Drew Aller. He's one of those guys that's, is there going to be just one GM who falls in love with that arm?
I think there inevitably will be. Now, I even, before last season at Penn State was not the biggest Drew Aller supporter, and he has all the arm talent, but things just never seem to fully come together from potential to reality. Like it never matched up how it should have. And I am wondering, though, was that just more the system? Like I also wasn't a huge fan of the offenses James Franklin ran out. So could he just have been in the wrong system? Like if you went and put him at Alabama or Ohio State, would things have been completely different? And would Drew Aller potentially be a number one pick right now? Because that's what his potential was. So I definitely think there's a GM out there who doesn't need a rookie quarterback starting this year, who sees how his arm talent is elite. Like that's a fact. He has elite arm talent and thinks I can help you put all this together and make you a legitimate starting quarterback in the NFL. So I do think that somebody will take a pick. I don't know what round it will be. I don't know, will somebody in the second round say, I absolutely will not let you get out of my sight and take him, or is it a fifth round pick? But either way, there's going to be a team that gets, a lot of confidence in what they can do with Drew Aller.
On a Keystone Kickoff show earlier this week, we were talking just about college football. We were talking about Indiana and Curt Cignetti and what his role was with the development of Fernando Mendoza. How much of it was just this kid's talent and development already, or how much was it the development and the system at Indiana? How much effect did that have? And, nature versus nurture, I guess. And I was getting ready to ask him, well, for example, if it was a different quarterback and not Mendoza going to Indiana, and I was going to say, what about if Drew Aller had gone there? Before I could bring it up, he was thinking the same thing. And he said, for example, I think if Drew Aller had gone there, he might have been the guy who won the Heisman Trophy. Your thoughts?
I would agree. I genuinely would agree. I think Kurt Cignetti knows how to develop a quarterback, knows how to put him in the right position. And I think system means so much to these guys. And I just don't, I'm not 100% confident that Drew Aller was in the correct system. I also wasn't a big fan of Penn State receivers. I don't think he got as much help as a quarterback needs to succeed, especially in a conference like the Big Ten, where week after week, you're playing high-level defenses. So, I wouldn't be surprised to see Drew Aller be a guy who has more success in the NFL than he did in college.
And again, there's just an argument again for some GM saying, you know what, he didn't have the right system, he didn't have the right receivers, didn't have the right coaching. I could bring that out in him, and he might be a steal in this draft. It'll be interesting to see. Using this quarterback topic, I'm going to use that to segue to the other thing that really intrigues me in this draft are the teams with multiple first-round picks. By coincidence, Shaun, both New York teams, the Jets, they've got the first round number 2 and number 16 pick. The Giants have number 5 and number 10, where the Giants might already have their quarterback. The Jets do not. By the luck of the tiebreaker, the Jets got the second pick instead of the first pick. But the Jets also have multiple picks next year. Pretty obvious, it seems, that the Jets are angling for their quarterback next year. They're going to load up. But when you have 2 firsts and 2 seconds like the Jets do, when you're the Giants with 2 picks in the top 10, these are teams that could really shape this draft.
You could, and I think, from the Jets' perspective, as you mentioned, everything seems like they're gearing up for next year in the quarterback market, and I love that for them. I think with both of these picks that they have, I personally would go defense. Their defense was, I think, the only defense in NFL history not recorded an interception last year. I think they were the only one in NFL history. It was a historically bad defensive year for the Jets in the turnover department. Build that foundation, because if you put a rookie quarterback, and we've seen this with, Justin Fields on the Bears. The Bears roster was nowhere near ready to compete, and he's thrown in there with no talent, with no defense around him to help him succeed. We saw even the Panthers' first couple of years of Bryce Young. Bryce Young went from this is a can't-miss prospect to this guy sucks. And then all of a sudden we saw when the Panthers get a competent roster around him, it's like, wait, he's really good. So if I'm the Jets, build your foundation up, get defensive line, get the offensive line shored away, because those are 2 of quietly a quarterback's best friends. When you have a defense that can get stops and an offensive line that can protect you, it makes whoever's quarterback next year, their life a whole lot easier. So if I'm the Jets, it's all about, we know we're tanking again this year, but can we get 2 foundational pieces, I would say, on the defensive side of the football that can set up long-term success for us? We've seen the 49ers do it. Any quarterback that goes in there succeeds because they're protected and they have a defense that's going to get them stops. And that's exactly what you should be trying to build if you're the Jets in this situation.
If you're the Jets, and there's not that franchise quarterback at number 1, I'm not sure if there are teams, because there's not like the second quarterback or whatever. So I'm not sure how attractive that number 2 pick is as far as other teams wanting to trade up for it. But as you had said, you had a historically bad Jets defense last season. Would you even consider trading that number 2 pick to stock up and even more draft picks so you could fill more holes?
I definitely would. I think they should be listening to every call that comes in. And also, what I would like to see them do is go edge rusher. This is a very deep draft for edge rushers. There will be multiple edge rushers taken probably in the top 5, picks, and maybe 3 or 4 even in the top 10, top 15. So you can trade back and get an edge rusher. But like you said, I just don't know if there's demand for the trade ups this year, because there isn't that quarterback, and you have a lot of other options. So it's unless a team just absolutely falls in love with, most likely it's either going to be Arvell Reese from Ohio State or David Bailey from Texas Tech going number 2. If there's a team that clearly likes one over the other and just needs to have him on their team, I think that's the only offer that you're going to get that's going to be, semi-competitive. But the draft haul is not going to be the same as if there was, Fernando Mendoza 2.0 at number 2,
Yes.
and you're saying like, this is our franchise quarterback. No one else gets the same type of value as a quarterback when you're trading up in the draft.
And my final thought on the draft, and this probably happens, feels like every year. Boy, how talented was this Ohio State team? And you mentioned Arvell Reese. There's also Sonny Styles, the linebacker. There's Carnell Tate, the wide receiver. Who might miss? Oh, Caleb Downs, who I really like.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at a mock draft which has 4 Ohio State players going in the top 11. And let's not forget, their quarterback is Julian Sayin, who would be a top 10 pick, right? And probably the most talented player in college football last year, the year before, and going to be this year is Jeremiah Smith, the wide receiver. So that much talent, how could they not win the national championship, Shaun?
I do agree. I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to bring it up too. And I actually think we're going to see 4 Ohio State players taken in the top 6 picks. I think all 4 of those guys that you mentioned are going to be in the top 6 right there, because I like the Cleveland Browns at 6 taking Carnell Tate. I think that's a perfect fit for them. They need a wide receiver 1, and I liked Caleb Downs actually going to the Giants for John Harbaugh's first pick as the Giants head coach there. So it does. It made me think too, how in the world did this team lose? Because we have 4 top 10 picks in this year's draft, and we have multiple that are going to be top 10 picks in next year's draft too. So I guess it circles back to just how good of a coach Curt Cignetti is, that he was able to beat them not once but twice in the season, and stop what we all thought was by far the most talented team in the country.
And 3 of these players were on the defensive side. Mm-hmm. So that's fascinating. One last topic I want to hit you up with, and I'm looking again at one of these projections, mock draft, and Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame is the consensus top running back. The one I'm looking actually has him going 4th to Tennessee. So, but I think whether it's them or not, it's pretty much expected for him to go in the top 10. There were several years where you just don't take a running back that high. It's fascinating to see it now. It's changing around again. I've given Saquon Barkley some of that credit. I think he kind of turned around the thinking on the value of running backs. But are we ready to see the return of the running back?
It's hard. I mean, I think Jeremiah Love is going to be a great player in the NFL. And I think it's hard to see him not being a very successful running back. But I really struggle to take a running back in the top 10, top 15 picks. And I mean, I've seen recent articles saying the Cardinals are falling in love with him at 3, and then the Titans at 4, like you just mentioned. And I've even seen the Giants are really interested at 5, even with Cam Scatterbo. And, I get the injury concern with him coming back, but he showed that he can be your workhorse last year as well. If I'm any of those 3 teams, I'm not taking him there. I think there's more impactful defensive players that you need to go with at that point in the draft. It's way harder, in my opinion, to get a successful edge rusher than it is a successful running back. And we've seen year after year, running backs taken in the 5th round are very serviceable. And you can kind of rotate them in and out. And as long as you have an offensive line that can create holes for them, you're going to be able to have success. Now, there's a different tier of, do you have Saquon Barkley on your team, or do you have a running back who can get you 1,000 yards in a season? That's 2 very different levels, but I still struggle. Unless your team is fundamentally ready, I'm not taking a running back in the 1st round. Like if I'm the Seattle Seahawks and I know I just let Kenneth Walker walk in for agency, hey, they have the best defense in the NFL. They've got the quarterback, they've got the receivers, they have the offensive line. Yeah, go add a running back in the 1st round, but if you're still in the rebuilding phase, I just don't know that running back is the right move for you.
That top tier running back is a luxury, not a necessity.
Yep.
And I think the other point that you made is, yes, even if there's a special running back with 1st round talent like Jeremiah Love, unless you're a team that can afford that luxury, you know what? I can get a competent running back round 4, round 5. I probably can't get that edge rusher or that monster defensive tackle or that monster offensive tackle in the 5th round. I'd rather invest in that in the 1st round. All right, Shaun, that is going to be it for our show. I'm looking forward to the draft. It's going to be a lot of fun. Just a reminder, the schedule is the 1st round on Thursday night, then the 2nd and 3rd round on Friday, the balance of the draft on Saturday. Can't wait for it, Shaun. And hey, how about we then talk about those results next week?
That's an easy plan for me to commit to, Jim.
All right, very good. Thank you, Shaun, so much. And how about we see you next week also on Shauns Take?